Welcome. I am here today to tell the story of all peoples and the language all people share, beginning with our species' 2.4 million year old history. I will begin with the language we speak, go over the story, and then present my analysis. Using fractal harmonic pattern analysis and an understanding of dyslexia, I will show the original language and how it has changed over the last 2 million years. This is a fractal harmonic pattern. The language we speak is called Bantu, also pronounced Vanhu. The English dyslexic form is the word human. We speak the human language. My first clue was the place name Murray-Lavelle, which is Sotho-Bantu, also known as Victoria Falls. Murray-Lavelle is the pre-dyslexic form of smoke that thunders. Mosey becomes Smosey, then Smokesy. Tunya becomes Tunda, and then Thunda, smoke that thunders. Here are some other examples. In Bantu, Katsi is the English word cat, Baba is Papa, Mama is Amai, Bantu Munininga is mini sister or little sister. My pronunciation was sort of close on the last word. Bantu Tahena is the pre-dyslexic form of Old English Hawit, Old High German Hwiz, and Sanskrit Sveta. Wint is English wind, Old Norse vint, and Sanskrit vati. Nisvati means not windy. Nirvana means no wind, the way silence flows when the air is still. Sizen, the same as Japanese sazen or zen, sit. Greek hezesthai. The Greek words menesthai and haptesthai show pronunciation stabilization in the ending. English grace is Latin grazie, Spanish gracias, Sanskrit ganati, Japanese gassho, and Bantu svenu. The positive transformation of language by dyslexia can be seen in the change from Old High German neo, which are to the dyslexic Greek goni. Bantu bani is English plain, Bantu uto is English bow, Old High German bowls, Sanskrit buyati in the verb construction form, Old High German butil is English bolt, Lithuanian beldeti, and Bantu musavi. Musavi is the singular form of English salvo. Old High German boem is English beam from the Bantu root word boa, which means tree. The next word is related to the first human migration by the Austral people to Australia. Austral is Bantu for first to star. Latin stella is the dyslexic form of Bantu straw. In Greek aster, in English star. In the language of the people of Hawaii, kama Aina is translated as love from man, English compassion, Sanskrit kama, love. In Bantu, the letter A can designate the word first, and the word na, N-A, is the word man. For example, in the words Anasazi, Ananaki, Ainu, Akan, and Canada. Next is a place name, Teotihuacan. which translates as Tao to mountain, similar to Japanese Ta-izan, great mountain. This is a picture. Aztec Nahuatl is actually Nahuatl Kas, which translates as man who water cross. Nahuatl Panamacamanos translates to herbs nurse commoners. Atl is the word water. In my presentation of the story of our people, I will be citing directly from or paraphrasing the work of three main people. Black Elk, as told through John Neidhart in 1931, the work of Hilda Roderick Ellis Davidson, and the Mahabharata, as translated by John D. Smith. I thank all who have helped me along the way with wisdom from the past and the present. The ancestors of human beings, referred to as Australopithecines, developed 5.3 million years ago in Ethiopia as weather and habitat changed after the permanent excavation of a channel by the Atlantic waterfall between the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea. Human beings developed from a population which had migrated to the seashore as winters intensified 2.4 million years ago. The population was starving, and that drove a few individuals to make stone tools. The happiness related to the survival of the population would last about 1 million years. These are some pictures of stone tools. This is a drill. This is a cutter and a slicer. This is a cutter and a slicer also. This is a hide scraping tool. This is also a hide scraper. This is a scraping and shaping tool. This is a meat slicing tool. The first separation of the human family occurred around 2 million years ago as rainfall decreased in eastern Africa. A good way to gauge the level of human development is by looking at the conceptual complexity during the migration from Africa to Australia by ocean-going canoe. This is a picture of a large stone axe. This picture shows a Pacific Northwest Kwakiutl ocean-going canoe. After humans reached Australia, they canoed back to Africa and down to Madagascar, where their form of Bantu is preserved. The next major stage in human development occurs according to the calculations given in the Mahabharata 1.46 million years ago. This corresponds to the beginning of the first human civilizations and the keeping of time. This age is referred to as the Karta Yuga in the Yuga cycle. These are pictures of solar calendars. This is a rose window. This is a sun disk from New Guinea. This is a Pacific Northwest Bellacula sun mask. This is a Vishnu mandala from Nepal. These are pictures of the 5 ancient peoples. This is one of the bush people. These are some of the Austral people. This is one of the glacier people. This is one of the desert people with the thin lips and the drawn eyes. This is one of the forest bush people with the hollow eyes. These are children of the star people. The next major advancement in human civilization occurred 1.095 million years ago, according to the Mahabharata, beginning the Treta Yuga, the age of knowledge. This is when writing called Sanskrit was first developed in subcontinent India. Sadly, humans slip into widespread mental illness at the beginning of the Dvapara Yuga 730,000 years ago, the depraved age. Now I will go over some of the concepts, psychology, and historical events which led to a worldwide cult of human sacrifice, participated in by too many peoples for too long a time. The 2 main concepts which have changed in the species are the separation of the natural into the supernatural and the concept of the self based on the body and the memory. The psychology occurring in the species includes the anxiety of the first migrational separation 2 million years ago, the fear and jealousy from the reuniting of the human family, and the manipulation of those fears, desires, and the need to belong. The specific event which led to the exodus of a large portion of 2 of the ancient peoples out of Africa was the impact of an asteroid on the Sunda Shelf 730,000 years ago. The impact changed the polarity of the planet and more than likely killed some people, and was taken by some as a sign that a negative force had arrived on the planet. The concepts which the species has understood reality are both logical and illogical. Humans have always known they came from the trees. One of the trees of life is the baobab tree. From the Bantu root boa, tree, and the word baba, papa, the papa tree. When the seeds fall from the baobab, they are nurtured in the Mother Earth and new trees sprout. The cycle of life for a bush people is based on rainfall, and the concept of a thunderbird, the eagle, are apparent in Bantu people's languages, including the Shona people of Greater Zimbabwe. In Bantu, Shiri Yidenga is translated as bird of the garden. Garden is the dyslexic form of denga. In the Scandinavian tradition, the tree of life has a spring at its base, and there is also a rainbow bridge to an underworld. Black Elk of the Uglala Sioux people is clear in his description of events leading to the exodus in his people's record of the Yuga cycle. Quote, I looked up and saw that there were 4 ascents ahead. When we came to the end of the first ascent, the land was green, and we camped in the sacred circle as before, and in the center stood the holy tree. On the second ascent, as before, the land was still green, but it was getting steeper. And as I looked ahead, all the people and all 4-footed beings, and even birds, were all walking in a sacred manner. But just before we stopped to camp at the end of the second ascent, all the marching animals grew restless and afraid that they were not what they had been. And when they camped at the end of the second ascent, I looked down and saw that leaves were falling from the holy tree. And the voice said, Behold your nation, for thenceforth your people walk in difficulties. Then the people broke camp again, and saw the black road before them, where the sun goes down, and black clouds coming yonder. And they did not want to go, but could not stay. And as they walked the third ascent, all the animals and the birds and the people ran here and there, for each seemed to have his own little vision that he followed, and his own rules. And all over the universe I could hear the winds at war, like wild beasts fighting. And when we reached the summit of the third ascent and camped, the nation's hoop was broken, and the holy tree seemed to be dying. When I looked ahead, I saw that the fourth ascent would be terrible. When the people began the fourth ascent, they were starving, and the holy tree was gone." End quote. In Scandinavian mythology, the beginning of the third Yuga cycle is described as the death of Balder, the sun god, from the Greek word Helios. I will refer to Hilda's writing, quote, "It is evident in the poems that the death of Balder was much more than a personal loss and defeat. There were omens before Balder fell, and the gods dreamed bad dreams. In the world of men there was much hatred and treachery, while the bonds of loyalty to leader and kindred, so powerful in the early age, seemed to be breaking." End quote. This indicates that behavior prior to the beginning of the Dvapara Yuga, 730,000 years ago, led to the exodus of a large portion of two of the ancient peoples out of Africa and into the Tigris and Euphrates River Valley headwaters. These people camped against the glacial ice sheet. They sought refuge for their families and their traditional beliefs. Cloudy weather and milk consumption led to a survival advantage, and the people followed the receding ice sheets until Europe and Asia were populated. At first, weather and habitat around the interglacial boundary altered the two ancient peoples. Later, the latitude would change the hair blonde and the eyes blue. Longer noses were needed to warm cold air, just as large or small nostrils were needed for elevations with more or less oxygen. The rate of genetic advancement transfer is faster in the teeth of the lower jaw compared to the teeth of the upper jaw. When the two ancient peoples migrated out of Africa, they brought with them remnants of their over 800,000-year-old civilization. Excellent examples of the continuity of the last 1.46 million years of civilization continue in southeast China. The migration into Europe included ocean-going canoes, the people migrated bringing with them clothing, baskets, backpacks, pottery, weaving, herbal medicine, agriculture, and herding. The people had dogs, wild boar, and goats. A male goat is a buck in Old High German. A female goat is an ouwi in Old High German. The people had felt, fills in Old High German, and drank milk, gert in Middle Irish, geherte in Sanskrit. They planted seeds in furrows made by a hoe, huoa in Old High German, and used a spade and a plow to till the earth. English spade is Old High German span and Greek spath. Both the plow and the loom used to weave had a beam, Bantu boum. The people wove towels, Old High German dwahili, and blankies, Old High German blanket. After Europe and Scandinavia had been populated, one Scandi tribal group decided to head southeast along the receding ice sheet. The first peoples they encountered were the Slavs, and that is why Sanskrit is Old Norse with a Slavic construction, along with other language sophistications learned during the migration to subcontinent India. One of the first trees to be adopted as the tree of life by the peoples was the yew tree, from which they made their bows. The oak and the ash tree were also adopted. The Scandinavians made their spears out of ash wood and called their cosmic ash tree Yggdrasil, still yew, pronounced Yiga in Old Norse. The concept of Tao is related to the psychological effects of the absence of the home forest. Over generations, the absence of these trees produced a sense of connection with something well beyond the individual, yet understood to be in a place no different than where we are. Although humans tried to do what was right, events would somehow lead to the beginning of the Kali Yuga cycle 36,500 years ago. At this point, I will introduce the principal characters in what is referred to as the War of the Gods. Nuclear war in India 36,500 years ago, according to the Mahabharata. The war occurred on the banks of the confluences of the Ganges, Son, and Gahadra rivers. In Black Elk's words, quote, "A place where three streams made a big one, and something terrible was there. Flames were rising from the waters, and in the flames a blue man lived." End quote. Some of the events in this story are very unfortunate and explicit. Of the 5 main characters in this story, only one is not directly named and is only referred to as the Will King. The son of the Will King is named Kali. Kali raped a woman named Draupadi. Bahima is the son of Draupadi and Kali. Ulupi is Kali's wife. The grandfather, son, and grandson word designations associated with these individuals occur in many languages. In Sanskrit, the word series is Vasudeva, Vasudeva, and Vasusena. In Uglala Saut, the series is Wakan, Mini Wakan, and Wanakia. Wakan means Will King, and Wanakia means Great Nike or Great Victor. The historical Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, is incorrectly referred to as Shakyamuni Buddha. Bahima is correctly referred to as Vairochana Buddha or the Mahavira, also the title given to Vardhamana, the 24th Mahavira. 2 of the 3 words in the series in Kyrgyz are Jengish Chokusu and Kanto Choksu. In Kazakh, Bahima is referred to as Tangiri Shagni, the name of Victory Mountain in the Koksal-Tau range of the Tian Shan mountain range. The title Tsvangirai also appears in Khoisan. This is a picture of burial mounds at Fugile in Skandia, Sweden. Bahima is also known as Wolf Belly, Beowulf in Anglo-Saxon, Brainchild, and Brendananda. This is a drawing of Bahima from the Aztecs. He is a red man and referred to as Tona Atiha. and also is Quetzalcoatl. This is a picture of Bahima from Teotihuacan. This is also Bahima. Kali is also known as Loki in Old Norse. In Aztec, Kali is also known as Tezcatlipoca and Tlaloc, which translates to Water Kali. This is a picture of Tezcatlipoca. Kali is a black man from Africa, and he used a boomerang as a weapon and stuck it in his afro. This is a Scandinavian rock carving from a book about the disaster at Ragnarok. It shows ships with keels and sails, a male-female fertility pairing, a sun disk, an eagle mask worn by a person with their feet in the frog position, and a person throwing a boomerang. These are amulets depicting Kali from Eckhammer, Uppland, Sweden. This is a depiction of Kali on a Sioux medicine shield. This is a Quetzalcoatl mask showing the Will King, Kali, and Bahima. This is a picture on a belt buckle from an Anglo-Saxon cemetery in Kent. This is a mask of Kali made by the Iroquois people. This is a picture of Mahakala from Tibet. This is Kali from Raktavija, India.